accepted and digested better than a movie like Split. I think you could watch Split. I think you can go into Unbreakable and you'll have more people divided rather than going into Captain America 2 and people being like, I was thoroughly entertained. And I think that entertainment value or factor, again, if we're talking about the intention of these movies or the directors, you need them to do something. Captain America 2 does something. It wildly entertains you and it keeps you in a position of suspense and thrills all the way to the end. Well, Unbreakable has some slow points. It's okay. Like it's a good movie, but it's one of those things that I would much rather watch on video on demand. But if you were to tell me Captain America 2 was coming out in theaters today again, just for a special release, I'm going. And I think more people would go to that. So I think it just does more.
All good arguments. All fair arguments.
Zach's just waiting there.
We're going to face the brunt of this criticism, and I'm sure more people will agree with you, Eman, than me and Art. I think we're going Unbreakable.
Yeah!
People, I tried. I don't know. This.
I think we can all agree, though. Infinity War versus Doctor Strange. We can give this one to Infinity War.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
This just cast a pall over everything.
Just, whatever.
Hey, I gave
right,
y'all Incredibles, all right?
The battle of the funniest movies in the Marvel Universe. Thor Ragnarok versus Deadpool. Where do you guys fall on this one?
Thor Ragnarok.
I gave it to Thor.
All right, good.
Yeah.
You see?
We can get along.
Like Thor.
Spider-Man 2 versus Batman Returns. I feel like this is Spidey's. Then X-Men Days of Future Past versus Blade. Which way you guys leaning?
Days of Future Past.
I gave it to Blade. If we're talking about ramifications, Blade, let me tell you something. If Blade hadn't came out, we would have never seen X-Men Days of Future Past. It's just, it's like one of the granddaddy godfathers that was like, hey, by the way, comic book movies can work.
Be cool, yeah.
So
be cool.
It'd be cool, yeah. So I gave it to Blade because I think Blade has been so disrespected and forgotten in just comic book conversations, movie conversations. Days of the Future Past was cool, but here was the thing. I go back to intention. The whole intention of Days of the Future Past was to fix a lot of the timeline continuity issues they had.
They did it.
They still had continuity issues.
I'll tell you. I'll use the point I was just using against you, against me. It is true. We talked about that the other day. It fixed the timeline. Now they gotta fix the timeline again.
Yeah. So even Singer came out and was like, "Oh yeah, that thing with Xavier. Yeah, we messed up. Yeah, whatever.
Never mind
just
that.
forget
Never
about
mind that.
So
I'm curious in terms of scenes. What scene would you put up for Blade? You have to offer up a scene. I'm offering up the Quicksilver scene. What's your Blade scene?
My Blade scene.
Or do you feel it's the movie as a presence?
I think it's the movie as a presence because honestly, like, I can't sit here and be like, oh man, it was this one scene in Blade that really got me. It was more like, I would much rather just watch the whole movie. Yeah. I love where he came from. I love how Wesley just encapsulates this the character. It's more of like the movie than moments.
Yeah, I was not a Days of Future Past fan, so I will side this to the case of Blade. We'll move on to the other side of the bracket. Avengers versus X2. Anybody going X2 here?
Not I.
Yeah, okay. Avengers. Then it's X-Men First Class versus Spider-Man Homecoming. How you guys feeling? First Class? Because I kind of prefer Homecoming, if I got to be honest. Not a lot of passion for this one.
I'm kind of coin flippish. Like
I'm saying Homecoming only because I'm still sticking to the other thing. First Class also doesn't make any sense anymore.
True.
I'll go with Spider-Man then.
And First Class is a good movie.
It is a good movie.
It's just in the wrong hands.
It's always been in the wrong hands.
Spider-Man versus the first Avenger, Captain America. This is, again, the original 2002 Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Props to the OG. I'm going Spider-Man here.
Spidey.
OG all the way.
Then Batman versus Wonder Woman. I'm pretty sure we're leaning Batman.
I'm going Batman.
The Dark Knight versus Batman Begins. Art, you wanna fight?
No. I'm not that. No. Let's relax, okay?
Let's not go nuts.
Yeah, okay? Take it easy.
And then Iron Man versus Superman. Two very fundamental movies in the superhero movie genre.
Iron Man.
It's
What's
just
the
the
other
more enjoyable rewatch. Definitely. Art, you're also going Iron Man?
Yeah, it was Iron Man, Superman, right? I'm trying to catch up with this little
Yeah.
bracket right here.
Yeah,
Iron
I
Man
gotta
Superman.
adjust it too because I had all my picks.
I
I gotta adjust with our current picks. So
Yeah, I'll try and reset us as we go along, so you at least
got
know
you.
what we're talking
Captain
about.
America 2 just busted my entire bracket. So I gotta
Iron Man.
Bracket busters on the intercut
yes.
breakdown.
Bracket buster.
Everyone knows that scene where Iron Man's walking away,
And
and
he
in the
looks at
trailer
the
goes,
tank.
That shot.
Dan, 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 dan. It started it.
Sure.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 versus the Lego Batman movie. Two films from last year battling it out. Where are you thinking, Eman?
I'll give it to Lego Batman. Just because I don't think Guardians 2 was that strong of a movie. So
Agreed.
I'll give it to Lego.
Same.
Art?
Same.
And then X-Men The Last Stand versus The Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight.
Keep it
Dark
going.
Knight.
Keep it going.
Third round, Black Panther versus Guardians of the Galaxy. Art, which way are you leaning?
Black Panther.
Black Panther.
I love the Guardians. But everyone loves the soundtrack. And they loved the soundtrack back in the 80s too. But Black Panther came in because Ryan Coogler knows how to make a soundtrack like he did for Creed. And no one's been able to replicate that since. And he goes, oh, you guys don't want to do it? All right, I'll bring it back again and let's see who get... Hey, Kendrick, are you busy? He said, nope, I already got it ready.
For
I
me,
read the
this is-
comics.
For me, this is a harder battle than the Black Panther Logan battle we had.
Really?
And I think it's worth noting just how influential Guardians has been to the MCU as a whole in terms
True.
of tone, in terms of bringing more comedy into the world. But I'm not going to argue that hard. Black Panther is great and still has my favorite villain of all the MCU movies. So let's go Black Panther
on.
here. Then The Incredibles versus Unbreakable. I know which way E-Man's going.
You're damn right.
Art, how are you feeling here?
Nope, it's on you.
I mean, I'm an Incredibles
Redeem
fan,
yourselves.
so if we're I'm not fighting anymore for
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. Does it end here? Does the run end here?
Yeah, it ends here.
All right,
still
so
like
The Incredibles
Unbreakable.
moves on. Infinity War versus Thor Ragnarok. I think this is interesting. Eman, which way are you going?
Oh, I'm going with Infinity War. Only because we got Thor Ragnarok in Infinity War as well.
Right.
So Infinity War is just. I called it Civil War on intergalactic steroids. So it's literally everything you would want from almost every single Marvel movie jam-packed. So it's kind of hard to, go against Thor. So I gave it to Infinity War.
Art, you agree?
I have one question. Do you guys like the Lord of the Rings movies?
Yes.
Do you
Not
see
so
it all
much.
as one movie or separate movies?
I think they have to be one.
I think Infinity War Part 1 cannot be judged until Infinity War Part 2 comes out. You know what I'm getting at?
I hear that. I really do. Because I've noticed anyway in my conversations in forums and groups and stuff, a lot of people have a difficulty of trying to quantify or just, qualify Infinity War, because to me, when you try and judge it as a standalone movie, it's very different as a part of a series. And depending on the question, and I'm going off of just standalone right now, you have those two different qualifiers like change the conversation. So I'm looking at Infinity War as a standalone right now, even though there's way more to be said if you look at it as a whole collective.
I think as a collective, it may make it to the finals of this
It should.
round. And
It should.
very much should, because the first half of it was really good. And I love Avengers Infinity War. To see that it's the actual story of Thanos, not the superheroes, because that's
Right.
the arc that's going on.
Yeah.
Thor Ragnarok has, I think, one of the best scenes in a superhero movie of all time, and it gets very underrated because it's a comedy. I'm a huge Taika Waititi fan. I'm going Thor Ragnarok. and I'm going because of this scene right here. When Thor is in the elevator with his brother, Loki, who he's always looked up to his whole life, but he realizes, just like his father has let him down, just like the sister he just figured out was from hell, just like his mom who's passed away, just like the Avengers who he wasn't even chilling with in the last movie, he has to realize that his brother, as much as he loved him and has looked up for him this whole time, he never considered him adopted. He can never fully love him.
I don't think that's the case. I think he can never fully trust him.
That's what I mean. You're right. You're right. That's how I mean it. And when I'm seeing that, I'm seeing the relationship of on Earth of what a person has with a drug addict, with someone who's addicted, and you're right. They love them, but they never know if they can fully trust them. And as comedic as it is, I always say the best drama comes from a comedy. When you're having all these jokes and stuff, and he looks at there and he says the most realist thing, which is what a person says to their drug addicted, whatever addiction their most loved one is going through, and that's like, I can never fully trust you.
So let me just counter all of that with the same scene where you're coming from comedy, but then you're moving into a very dramatic scene. And I would say this is the most impactful and emotional scene and dramatic scene from Infinity War, and that's also with Thor when he has that moment with Rocket.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
It is.
That's not
it
fair.
Is.
Because he's right. That's not fair.
That was it. When I saw that, I was like, this is Chris Hemsworth's best acting to date. That scene where he comes to the realization that he's lost everything, and through all of that, he's been fighting and trying to make jokes just to fight through all of that. Oh my God.
It builds off of. That's the one thing I will give the Russo brothers.
If we're going off of, the earlier point about judging it as a standalone versus a series or a collective, you have to look at it as a series in that scene. Because if I were to tell you like, Thor lost his mom, big deal.
Okay. But you've seen it.
But if you've seen Thor 2 and you see how and why, and you see him in Thor Ragnarok losing his father, and their relationship and all of these things, and he's seen his brother die again, all of those things hit home so deep. That is the one scene I would say that actually probably even trumps the Spidey one at the end. But I have to. That's why
I don't feel so good. AtZ, that's on you.
Yeah.
Look, these are both really good movies.
They are very good.
I think the argument that's kind of hard to get past is that you get a lot of Thor in Infinity War, and plus you get the rest of them too. I think maybe let's go Infinity War here. It might be too early to say, but we're feeling the hype. We're feeling it's good. It's good. It feels good. Spider-Man 2 versus Blade. Eman, do you have a more Blade defense here, or are you going Spider-Man 2?
It was done. Nope, that was it.
He stole that man's pizza.
This goes with Spidey.
I mean, it's one of the best superhero films of all time, one of the best superhero villains of all time, and Doc Ock. Let's go Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
Then The Avengers versus Spider-Man Homecoming, and I think this is the end of Homecoming's run. It's been fun.
Good.
Yep.
Homecoming's where it's going.
Bye-bye.
Spider-Man 2002 versus Batman 1989.
This is a good one. It's a good matchup.
It's a very good matchup.
Yeah. It's a good matchup. I'm not going first.
That's fine. I go with Spider-Man. Because even though I grew up with Batman, the 89, I mean, I'm talking about I had the Batmobile, I had the toys where he couldn't turn his neck and all that good stuff. So it was a very impactful movie. It was like the first time I had seen Batman be Batman, outside of a cartoon or comic or whatever. But Spider-Man 2, I wanted to be Spider-Man. I wanted to know what it was like to web sling. I was glued to the TV, and we didn't have 3D at that time, but I was like, oh my God, look, it's
coming out.
That's so fun. It's so awesome, so I had to give it to Spider-Man. And it was just I still say that Tobey Maguire is the best Peter Parker we've ever seen. He is the best.
Thank you.
He's the best Peter Parker.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to anyone that feels differently. I will have so much fun debating you about it, but Tobey Maguire is hands down the best version that we've gotten. He could have been better when he had the costume on, tapping into the Andrew Garfield cockiness, but to date, he is by far the best. So I got to give it to Spidey.
The ending's great too.
Yes.
I think a lot of this comes down to aesthetic. You know, the Batman movie has a much more colorful, broad palette, and Spider-Man kind of gives us the more lived-in, CGI-heavy thing that we're getting now with these superhero movies. I'm just a bigger fan of how Spider-Man looks and feels.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go that way. The Dark Knight versus Iron Man. Art, is this an easy battle or not so much?
I don't want to say it's easy, but I want to say I know what I'm choosing, and it's The Dark Knight. But it's so interesting to always look back and see that they came out the same year, to see the impact that they've had. But the thing is, Iron Man is still going, and that is a great thing. Dark Knight's not going anymore, but it's still going, if you know what I mean. It still has an impact with no more releases.
It's really interesting to see the diverging paths that Marvel and DC took from this moment. Eman, are you also Dark Knight here?
I am not. I am Iron Man because I give more credit to a movie starting from nothing and doing something. You know, Dark Knight, you know, it did have to be part of a trilogy. And I think that, you know, and this is my biggest argument against The Dark Knight, despite really liking this movie and loving this movie and having it in my top 5 if we were to ever talk about the greatest comic book movies ever. It's so much more dependent and reliant on Heath Ledger's legendary performance than anything else. Christian Bale, the lead character, is forgettable in this movie because he's overshadowed by a supporting character. You know, Harvey Dent, a character that really should have been an added bonus, especially with Aaron Eckhart, lost, forgotten. And it's just like, it just bothers me that, you know, Nolan tried to do something with this movie in terms of grounding it, and it's appreciative. It's great. I feel as though you have to do too much legwork to make this movie deeper and better than what it is. You know, I get the themes, I get the analysis and the different juxtaposition between the lead and the antagonist, but you know, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, there's no replacement for that. The entertainment value of Iron Man is so much better. I mean, you get drama and comedy and entertainment and action all in one. It's a much more complete movie. It's a better complete package. It's literally, and I just rewatched Iron Man 2. It's literally like 3 movies in one, you know, and I feel as though you just get so much more out of Iron Man compared to Dark Knight, that when I look at it, it's kind of like if we were giving an MVP award or something, you take Downey out of Iron Man, it's complete just garbage. You take Heath Ledger out of, you know, Dark Knight, I don't know if you have a movie. Like, honestly, I really don't, because there was nothing compelling with the supporting characters outside of Heath Ledger and with the lead character. The lead character should not be overshadowed. He just was not. And we're talking about memorable moments. Right. You talk about Dark Knight, no one brings up Christian Bale. They just don't. It's just not brought up because he's just kind of overshadowed. And Iron Man.
Those are all good points, and for me, those are criticisms that I feel really resonate as someone who doesn't necessarily think the Dark Knight is as perfect as a lot of people make it out to be. I mean, for a certain segment of the superhero fan population, it's like, how can it get better? And I think everything you said are the ways it could get better. I still think it's got those moments that I respond to the most. Iron Man's got a really cool kind of like postmodern start of a take on the superhero thing. I really love how it ends with that moment of him just revealing who he is in a very like
the biggest film franchise ever too. So I should
it did. So it's all big points in Iron Man's favor. I'll go The Dark Knight narrowly on this one.
Live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Lego Batman movie versus The Dark Knight Rises. Are we going Lego Batman here?
I would.
I would
too.
Wait, we said Lego Batman, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'll go with that.
All right, so we are in the round of 8. It gets exciting here.
Boy.
Black Panther versus The Incredibles. Eman, which way do you fall on this matchup?
Black Panther. Black Panther. I mean, I don't know if
Yeah.
I need to make an argument for it. I will, but I'm going Black Panther. So, and I love Incredibles. I've been voting for it all this time.
Yeah, Art, you're the one who's less into The Incredibles. Are you also going Black Panther?
I am less into The Incredibles, but someone had brought up a theory to me about how similar both are, in where the villain in The Incredibles, they've been out for a while. The villain in The Incredibles is a kid who interacts with a hero in a fashion that causes him to be the villain, and that's exactly
tries to kind of be a part of that world.
Exactly, and
That's
then tries to
interesting.
oppose it later. And then in Black Panther, same thing happens with Killmonger. I obviously like Killmonger more. I like the soundtrack more for Black Panther. Actually, the score as well. I feel like I'm thinking in the now for Black Panther, because I would definitely, you give me both right now, I'm watching Black Panther. I'm watching Black Panther over The Incredibles, because I didn't grow up with The Incredibles.
Right.
So, for you Incredible fans out there, I'm sorry, I don't...
Yeah, I mean...
But
The
I know you're an
is
Incredibles
great.
fan.
Yeah, The Incredibles is great. I've definitely rewatched it more than I think I will end up rewatching Black Panther, but that doesn't mean that I think there isn't a lot really great about Black Panther. I think Incredibles is kind of an easier rewatch, maybe, and that Black Panther has a lot thematically and in its production that I'm really impressed and taken aback by. So yeah, let's go Black Panther here.
The what are
And
those
then-
joke. Still trash. Still trash in my opinion.
Avengers Infinity War versus Spider-Man 2. Eman,
We're not having this. We are not having this.
Kill one of your babies.
I don't like this.
This is not happening
I
right
don't
now.
like this. Like,
Let's
this is
all
my-
just say
this-
Spider-Man 2 and move on with our days.
This is my nightmare. This is my nightmare.
Y'all think very carefully.
I'm splitting hairs. I really am. But I'm going to give it to Avengers. I'm splitting hairs. I mean, Spider-Man 2 is damn near like a completely perfect movie. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so good. However, to make a movie about the villain and here's the thing, from a production standpoint, to juggle 60-something odd characters.
Yeah.
That's unprecedented.
And give them all their due.
And to give them all their due, just enough where we don't feel like anyone was really cheapened. That's
Except
just
Hawkeye.
from a filmmaking perspective. That was the biggest issue or concern that I had
Going into it.
I was just like, dude, if you guys pull this off, I have to give you points for that.
1000%.
So it's almost like Avengers Infinity War wins by default. You know, by being a benefactor of all these other comic book movies, from learning from everyone else's mistakes, and
Art,
not messing
why do
up
you
too
think-
much.
Why do you think it should be Spider-Man 2 then?
Because Spider-Man 2 has one superhero and you said you were split. If one superhero by himself can make you split, and we just had the argument for The Dark Knight that the predecessor couldn't build it, I think Spider-Man 2 on its own sets up with it. Because you were right, but we're fans of the Marvel franchise. And I think you can go into Infinity War and still very much enjoy it, but you will not feel the impact. I think two
Unless
movies,
you
and
watch
this is where I
them
agree
all.
with you. Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where even I will say Logan, which would have made my top 4, if not top 2. I can even admit that, yeah, when you see Logan die, you'll feel something, but you won't feel what I felt.
Yeah.
Right.
In Avengers, you'll feel something, but you won't feel what I felt. But I think 2 movies in particular on this list, The Dark Knight and Spider-Man 2, even though that they're sequels, they're also fresh startups. And Spider-Man 2, anyone can pop in and enjoy. And to this day, what is this, 2003, 2004? That Doc Ock fight with no score? Just sound effects and the train scene?
The train scene, man. Yeah, I mean, there
With
are
one
so
hero.
many great moments in Spider-Man 2 that for me it's a little hard to make this call, and I feel like there's definitely some recency bias here with Infinity War having just coming out and being, you know, still being in the glow of that movie. So I almost want to give it to Spider-Man 2 for even like making this a discussion.
Yeah,
15 years later.
It's still
Infinity
there.
War just did too much. It did so much. I mean,
It did a lot.
The fact that the villain won,
10 years.
So I did a watch party for Infinity War, and after this was my second time, after I emotionally was able to compose myself and go watch it again.
Yeah, I saw your Facebook video.
Oh, God.
This man just stood there
Dude,
for like 2 minutes.
You have to process so much, but you know, like I was recording like the reactions of people walking out of the theater. Oh my God, like kids were like in tears. You know, adults are just kind of like, I don't know what I just saw. Like I don't. Oh my gosh, you know. And
I need to go to therapy.
Yeah, and again, this is what you want movies to do. Movies aren't about just like, oh, I come out and I feel good afterwards. It's about like, did it move you? And this one did, you know. So, Slight, I have to give it to it because, and oh God, Spider-Man 2. Come on, man. Like,
yeah, look, it's a tough one. I think if we're revisiting this bracket in a couple years and we know more of Infinity War, it'll be a little easier to make this decision. I'll go Spider-Man 2 because it's a little more solid in my mind now. You know, I think that's a compelling argument made that we need the second half of Infinity War. So let's move on and get to Avengers versus the original Spider-Man. Art, how you feeling?
This one I'd actually go Avengers. This one I would go Avengers.
Really?
To me, Spider-Man 2 does the leap that The Dark Knight and The Godfather 2 do.
Eman, are you the same way?
Yep, Avengers.
Okay, let's give this one to Avengers. And then The Dark Knight versus the Lego Batman movie, a battle between the most depressing and least depressing Batman movies ever. Eman, which way do you feel?
Lego.
Lego!
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Lego with the OG Dark Knight.
Yep. Again, I'm standing by my thing. You can have a legendary performance in a mediocre movie. And that's it, and that to me is what Dark Knight is. It's not, the movie is completely riding on the coattails of Heath Ledger's performance. And again, as a film, if your lead is just in the shadows, I don't know what.
Well, he's a bad. He has to be.
No, that's not it. You know, like
I think there is impact there. Like you said
What?
with Infinity War, there's impact there. He loses at the end. He has to lie.
I was rooting for the Joker. I did not care about Bale as Batman at all.
All right, we need therapy here. You can't root for a sadistic.
No, I'm serious. What was a memorable moment for you? Since you're more
for who? From who?
From Bale. And you could tell me this since you're probably more so aligned with Dark Knight. Just tell me something to reignite my faith in Bale as Batman in Dark Knight.
There's this scene where he has to go save Rachel.
Sure.
And he doesn't save her. He saves the other guy instead. And there's a look, of course, because he's covered in the mask, and that's the biggest thing that I could always fault it. I'm not the biggest fan of the eyeshadow.
And disguising the voice.
Or the voice.
God.
I can love a movie and be the first to say, that needs to go.
That
1000%.
was more distracting to me than anything else. That took me out of the emotional scenes.
1000%.
Because I wanted to feel that, because I thought, first of all, that whole situation, I didn't even care about Bale. Because, don't get me wrong, I thought that, obviously it was a tough decision to make.
Yeah.
I was giving more credit to the Joker for coming up with that devious plan. I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh.
That's
this
actually
is so good. I don't care what Bale's reaction is. I'm impressed at the fact that he got put in that position by the Joker. Once again, it goes back to the credit goes back to the Joker.
But so many things need to happen in order for that to have gotten right. And this is for someone who loves the movie. The timing on there for Batman to not have stopped for gas or to pee or something. I love the plan and it's crazy and all, but at the same time, it's a sort of Kevin Spacey in Seven where everything needs to be just right. Yeah. And it's a movie, so gladly it does. But that scene where he opens it up and he sees not the love of his life, who he grew up with, but Harvey instead.
Yeah.
And he has just a second to realize she's dead, but I gotta save him.
Yeah. But again, that's again to the Joker. It's like he put you in a crazy position. Then he double screwed you. I don't know.
That's all fair. I feel like most of what we get from Heath Ledger and the character of the Joker in The Dark Knight is better than just about everything we get in Lego Batman. Even if Lego Batman's maybe a more consistently entertaining movie, the highs of Dark Knight are higher than what we get from Lego Batman.
I just wanted to go against the grain, so that's fine.
So we're going Dark Knight into the semifinals. We got 4 movies left, and they're from 4 different franchises.
It's not in this conversation. I can't believe it.
It's okay because we got Spider-Man 2, one of the greatest superhero movies of all time.
It's a really good substitution, so I'm fine with it.
So yeah, let's start it off. It's Black Panther versus Spider-Man 2. Eman, how you feeling?
I'm giving it to Black Panther because I don't know, as good as Spider-Man, as great as Spider-Man 2 is, I don't know what it's done that Black Panther hasn't done to some degree, if not more. So, for example, Spider-Man 2 has way better action scenes. I would say that off the bat.
That's the one thing I would definitely give Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, absolutely. However, I'd give the drama aspect to Black Panther. So, that in itself kind of, cancels out in a sense.
I think there was a corniness to some of the Raimi movies that the Marvel movies don't have as much of. Not to disrespect Spider-Man, because I've been one of the ones really voting for Spider-Man in this tournament, but yeah, the Black Panther and most of the Marvel movies do have a natural feel to them.
Absolutely.
I don't think Spider-Man 2 did.
And a big qualifier for me with any comic book movie is, can you be genre breaking? Can you go above and beyond typical comic book movie formulas? Now, the thing with Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, they pretty much lay the foundation.
I was about to say, they're the ones who created it.
So I'm giving homage to them, no doubt about it. But Black Panther broke that. Black Panther became way more than a typical comic book movie. And it's kind of like, that's kind of what happens when we have records. Someone has to break Carl Lewis's record. Someone eventually is going to break Michael Phelps's record. And when that happens, we have to give credit to when it does. So, the fact that that Black Panther deals with way more themes than Spider-Man 2 does. It's a way deeper movie. It's not a sequel, which means it doesn't have very much to go off of and build off of that Spider-Man 2 was able to benefit and privilege from. The villain. Yeah, I'm more intrigued with Killmonger than I am with Doc Ock. If you think about it, Doc Ock is kind of a one-dimensional, villain. It's a good one, but still kind of one-dimensional. Black Panther meant more to non-comic book fans than what Spider-Man 2 was.
That's a good point.
So I've got to give it to Black Panther. It just does too much.
Art, how you feeling?
I love Black Panther.
Where are you coming down on this?
And I love the other 2 movies that are in this Final Four. But Spider-Man 2, like he said, created what we know as the comic book formula before it became a formula. Now,
established a lot of the rules that we feel like it goes by.
If there's one thing that I will give Black Panther is the score. That is undeniable in any way, shape, or form.
Score and soundtrack.
Or the soundtrack, not the score.
I'd actually give it the score.
Score's good too.
The score is good.
I really love the score.
Ludwig.
That Spider-Man's. Oh yeah, it's Ludwig. I mean, it's Gambino's boy right there.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man score still works. There have been edits of the Spider-Man score to the Mr. I don't feel so good meme. But if we're talking about, I know you had mentioned the sequel thing. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I also think Black Panther benefits from that because there is a huge part that is leading into Black Panther. That's Civil War. It's when his dad dies.
Yeah, I wouldn't give that. I can't count that. You're talking about, 20 minutes of time versus an entire movie? I can't count that.
What carries over into Spider-Man 2? It's the same thing. It's the death of a character that carries over into this movie.
Well, let me explain that not a sequel aspect. The reason why I say that is because that gives an unfair advantage when we're talking about a movie coming out as a solo movie.
But Black Panther's
There's
coming
a
out
whole
of the
bunch of
MCU.
world building.
It's coming out of the MCU, but this movie
exactly.
does not do what other MCU movies have done.
Yeah, there's still a lot of world building that Black
Yeah.
Panther had to do that Spider-Man 2 didn't necessarily have to do.
Right. I mean, not to mention, like, when you look at Spider-Man 2, it's easier for Raimi to be like, hey, what were all the cool things in Spider-Man 1 that people like? What did they not like? And let's just do better. And they did. And that's kind of an advantage that you have. So, you know, Black Panther didn't have that advantage. We didn't have Wakanda in Civil War. And Wakanda is almost a character in itself. So, I can't do that. I'm sorry. Being a sequel is an advantage, but it's also kind of a cheap one too. Like,
I think if you compare it
for
from
us, we love the payoff, but
no doubt about it. But I still think that it's still built in a world that it does have a lot of benefits from. That it does have not only the final decision that's made at the end for Wakanda to open up, because Wakanda opens up not just because of what happens within the story, but everything else that leads up to it from all of the other characters, and then what happens in Infinity War. I believe the arc, when we were talking about the Joker and Bruce Wayne, I believe Killmonger, that's the other one I would give it, not just the soundtrack. I would give Killmonger as a way better villain that overshadows Black Panther completely. I think Black Panther's T'Challa's story arc happens in Civil War. Because that's not only where he has to take the mantle, but that is the same movie. And this is why I mean where I truly do see it as a direct thing. I liked Black Panther more in Civil War than I did in Black Panther, the character of Black Panther. Because it's in Civil War where he not only has to deal with the death of his father, but it's in Civil War where he also forgives the man. I know it's a lot shorter.
Both.
You know what?
The man who killed his father?
All right, let me.
That's a Civil War.
Let me bring this back, right? Remember, so we could talk about this whether as a standalone versus a part of a collective, right? I'm gonna judge it as a standalone because I think it's a lot.
Same with Spider-Man 2.
It's more difficult, right? And that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't need to know what happened in Civil War to walk into Black Panther and still feel the sympathy and the empathy and the drama and the loss.
Same
of
with
T'Challa
Spider-Man 2.
leaving his father. That's fine. You don't need to lose. You have, I would say, better character growth and development in Black Panther's T'Challa than you do in Peter Parker's Spider-Man 2. I mean, he does go through, he basically learns what it means to become a king and taking that responsibility from that quote, it's hard for a good man to be a king. You know, that was a major theme in this movie, and it was a major stride for him, not only to discover that internally, but he gets that externally through the villain and through the other supporting characters as well. So there was a lot of things happening all at once, flowing through every single character. You don't get that level of complexity in Spider-Man 2.
I think he gets it from his girlfriend, he gets it from his best friend who becomes the villain, and he gets it from his Aunt May who's almost killed.
Which I would say are all kind of more stiff characters than the side characters that we get in Black Panther. And granted, Black Panther benefits from, we've seen so many of these superhero movies that now they've refined and refined and refined the formula. But I think in that refining of the formula, we've got a better movie in Black Panther.
Sure.
So I don't know if it maybe is a little bit of recency bias here, but I feel like Black Panther has the slight edge here over Spider-Man 2. So I'm putting Black Panther into the finals. Let's figure out what it's going up against.
Oof.
Avengers or The Dark Knight?
Dark Knight.
Art. Yeah?
Dark Knight.
Avengers.
Ooh.
This one should have been nominated for the Oscar. Did get nominated for Oscars that it did win. Even if the argument is that the Joker overshadows everything, which I can see the point of view, I don't fully agree with it. That alone, the way he overshadows it, I believe also overshadows the other movies that are in this.
I will say Avengers because, one, it is, to me, the greatest superhero movie out there. It basically does everything you would want a typical comic book movie to do and then more. You have the drama in the characters. You do not actually need to go watch the previous movies. It's not anchored on anything. You know, I mean, whether you know who Iron Man or Thor or Captain America are at all, it doesn't matter in this movie. All you know is that these heroes have a huge task ahead of them, alien invasions, nothing major. And yeah, they live up to it. And I mean, talk about memorable moments. Like the Hulk, he almost steals the movie in 2 scenes. No, actually almost in 2.5 scenes. When he saves Tony as he's falling, the Loki scene, I mean, which I remember when I went to the theaters to go see this, had the theater going up in an uproar I had never heard before. Like, that was the first time I ever heard everyone just do that. When he came and punched, the Chitauri ship and everything just to display his actual strength, which has never been displayed to that level, by the way, in previous Hulk movies. It was just unprecedented. So, yeah, I Avengers, to what it did to the culture, to the average person, whether you're a comic book movie fan or not, that was incredible. Whether it was Oscar award winning or not, I don't know. I can't say that. Maybe for visuals or something. I can't really use that argument for it or even against it, mainly because we've seen a lot of movies be Oscar nominated, and let's just be honest, those movies tend to pander to fellow people in the industry that love movies. But that doesn't necessarily mean those are actually the best. That's just the movies that tend to appeal to us for, technical reasons or whatever. So
it is pretty rare for a performance like Ledger's to break through into one of the acting categories.
That's true.
Which does show you how remarkable and how much
no doubt about that. But
how much that performance resonated.
We're talking about
we are talking about the movie as a whole.
We're talking about the movie and not
film
the performance.
Fans and have come out of The Dark Knight.
But I think that's something that we have to separate. And I can't sit here and be like, well, because of this great performance, it's therefore a good movie. I can't do that with Dark Knight, even though I obviously enjoyed it and appreciated it. If we're talking about the movie itself, I can't give it that extra bump because of a legendary performance. I just,
it's fair. I understand that argument. Like, I do. And I think the most compelling point that you bring up is that Avengers is definitely a better superhero movie. That in terms of like the heroes that we see, and bringing them together and showing what they can do and showcasing the battle for good, I think the Avengers does that more. And I don't know if this is just because I'm kind of a cynical person who watches a lot of depressing movies, but the villain stuff in Dark Knight really resonates with me, and I think it's really striking. It's maybe the iconic villain performance from this era of movie villains. To me, that helps give The Dark Knight the slight edge here. So I feel like
I tried.
All right, yeah, admirable. But we got a Black Panther Dark Knight showdown for the finals. Look, I think we've made our points clear. If you've listened to us, you know why we like these movies. So let's make this simple. Eman, where's your vote?
Black Panther.
Art, where's your vote?
I'm going to use something that was used earlier in this bracket about why...
I thought we was making this simple.
Captain America...
I thought we was going to make this simple. I could use some of that bracket stuff too. Go ahead.
Why Captain America Winter Soldier should have advanced. Because what was said was that a superhero movie, should transcend out of the superhero genre.
Absolutely.
Black Panther transcends. It most definitely does. No one said anything about that. But it's still within a superhero world where the Dark Knight blended in not just the superhero comic book genre, but a drama, a crime thriller, and created something that film fans to this day, we're talking about what transcends not just for the people who read the comics, people who haven't read the comics know about the Dark Knight. That is the Dark Knight.
You want to go there? Do you want to go there? Dude.
The Dark Knight. Forget the awards and part stuff. We're talking performances. We're talking the themes within the movie. And this isn't to downplay, because right now we're at the point where we got the two best movies.
We have to split hairs at this
point. We have to split hairs at this point.
Sure.
We collect them all. We have them all anyway.
Absolutely.
Nobody arguing about that bit.
Okay.
Right.
For me, I feel the impact right now is this. Is the Dark Knight. People are still watching it a decade later. Every single part of it is still intact. I do feel there are parts, even parts that I do like. I don't know how sonically the landscape of music is going to change, and when we listen back to The Weeknd, we're going to listen to it the same way we listen to Prince in Batman. When we see him in the parade, and we're like, oh, that's 90s.
All right.
Do you get what I mean? And that's the only, and I love it right now because I know when I rewatch this movie years from now, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, dude, this guy was it, and my kids are gonna be like, oh, we're in a new sound now,
Right.
and when the meme pops up, what are those?
Sure.
I feel it's gonna age. I don't know what part of The Dark Knight will age the same way that other crime thrillers.
So you anticipate The Dark Knight is the movie that will stand the test of time a little bit better?
It already does.
I'm going to severely disagree, especially when we're talking about staying in the comic book realm. No, absolutely not. And you know why? Because of the intentionality that goes into the incredible detail of the fashion and the cinematography of the characters in Black Panther. The fact that they took a culmination. No, not that. And I'll give you that. CGI was not on par. I will totally give you that. But what I'm talking about is when you have the culmination of the city of Wakanda being a blend of real life African tribes and cultures coming together as one, but at the same time celebrating each one individually. You can't tell me that does not, that stays in the comic book realm. They didn't create something. They took something from the real world and implemented it into the comic book genre, which also helped it transcend. So you have that that also goes to the music and the sounds as well, because the Afro beats that are going into this movie, that's definitely something. The score, absolutely. When you talk about acting, I think this is a question of you in Batman, in The Dark Knight, you have a supreme performance with some mitigating ones.
Oh, Gary Oldman is very underrated to a lot of people in these films.
Fine.
Michael Caine.
I'll give you Michael. Nah, not enough. Not enough. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying it's not enough compared to Michael B. Jordan, Chadwick Boseman, Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker, Lupita. You have way too many good actors, even if their roles weren't that huge. You had way too many good performances from Winston Duke. Come on now, you had more better quality performances, and I think they just beat out by the numbers. I'm not saying anyone transcended Ledger. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you had better individual performances that come together as an ensemble, way better than you have in Dark Knight. Go ahead.
Eman, when you put your bracket together when I sent this to you.
Yeah.
Black Panther ended up winning it?
It did. It did. And it was hard because I was kind of mad that, others didn't make the finals, but
what was your second?
It did. My second
he's gonna say Winter Soldier.
You know what?
I think the same side of the bracket.
No, because it was in the same bracket.
Oh yeah, it was on the same side.
I think it was Spider-Man 2. No, it was Spider-Man 2. It was Spider-Man 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Art, how about you? I'm curious what you came up with in your solo version of the bracket.
I can't pick my number one, but my top four was Spider-Man 2, Thor Ragnarok, Logan, Dark Knight. Those four.
Yeah. My top four ended up being The Incredibles, Kick-Ass, The Dark Knight, and Chronicle.
What man is this?
Wow.
I'm a little bit different than both of y'all. I mean, my winner was The Incredibles.
Wow. You know what?
That's fair, and that's completely fair. That's the beauty of these brackets that we've done before on the undercard, and the viewers know this, that we go through our thing. We know that you guys get queasy while we're picking ones over the others, but the beauty is hearing your guys' debate down below which ones you like more. I'm surprised you didn't get all hipster with us and toss in a specific movie that included a Batman, but in a different role that some people consider the best superhero movie.
Which one?
Birdman. Some people consider Birdman to be the most. Have you guys heard that?
Yeah, I could have been. I
don't put it there. But some people, they take out that 70 millimeter reel and go smoke out there.
I don't buy it.
Right, you're right. That was the pretentious thing to say on Twitter when Birdman was going up for the Oscars. Like, Birdman is my favorite superhero movie.
By the way. The other thing that I also give credit to Black Panther for is being I would say, a cultural phenomenon.
No doubt.
Especially within the Black community. I mean, you're talking about people dressing up, people embracing and learning about African culture. I don't recall anyone doing anything close to that with Dark Knight. And the reason why I bring that cultural impact up is because that's what comics essentially wanted to do. The nature, if we're getting to the nitty gritty of comic books, they're supposed to take you out of your, world into a different place and be inspirational, to be motivational, to touch you in different ways. And don't get me wrong, Dark Knight does that to an extent, but Black Panther does that in multiple ways. There were people that were hurt, like in Black Panther, when he goes over the waterfall or whatever, and the reason why I say that is because there were so many people that were introduced to comic book movies, which is one of the main reasons why it's the 9th all-time movie ever. That's not because of the comic book movie lovers out there. That's not even because of the Marvel spin or the Marvel legacy. Yeah.
That's the passion extends far beyond that.
Yes, and the biggest thing for me, and this is more of my personal thing, this movie was not whitewashed at all. And I'm talking about from an all-black cast, Black director and writers. Big thing, Black producers, which means the integrity of the message and the intention of this movie was unfiltered. And at the same time, it's not confrontational. You're not going to be, well, of course you always have extremists, but you're not going to have, someone that's not Black go into this and be like, I'm super offended. They can actually also go in and watch it and appreciate it.
Know that it's being represented.
Yeah, and see something like, hey, this is literally just another lens that I don't usually get privy to seeing through. And it's not something I'm accustomed to. So that vision, that perception is something that I would argue is also unprecedented. Because we've had all Black cast, we've had a Black director, we've had Black writers, we might have had a Black producer here or there. But to have all of that in one line, that's amazing. And to have
something that is so central to movie culture right now.
Exactly.
You could have done the same thing. You could have done the same thing on a comedy or a horror movie or a just medical drama, and it doesn't have the same power that a superhero film, especially a Marvel superhero film, has right now.
To add on to that, the responsibility of having Star Wars budgets, right? Yeah. To have $200 million something or whatever, to have a Black focus, an unapologetically Black movie with that much money is a huge high risk and high reward thing to do, because especially in these times, in today's societal times now, where race is an issue and stuff, I thought that it was incredibly remarkable to have this film do what it did and still be successful, because I was honestly very worried. I really thought this movie was going to be like, okay, I might like it, but
will it tank? And if it tanks, then becomes because then it becomes a representation of you see these movies can't make money because a movie like you said that has all that. It's what they did with A Wrinkle in Time. Yeah, I thought it was okay, but what happens is that it's not even allowed to just be okay, because then it represents. You see what happens when you give a woman that? It's like, but we give men that all the time.
Yeah. There was a lot banking on it, and like you said, the representation. Oh my gosh. The representation in this movie was so critical. It was so inspiring. That, again, this goes into my cultural impact argument, but it's just the fact that we finally got, we Black people, okay, I'm talking for all of us now.
The representative.
As the representative.
I have accepted that from the Black delegation. We've finally been depicted fairly and positively. We weren't drug dealers. We weren't gangbangers. We weren't, criminals or whatever. Okay, Killmonger has some issues, but he's a complex, intriguing villain, with interesting motives, just questionable means. Black Panther, man. I'm sorry. That was my fault. I'm sorry.
Those are all great arguments, and those are all arguments that I think, unarguably, make Black Panther a more important movie than just about any of the other ones we're talking about here. And it's not just important, it's really great too. I think sometimes we get lost in these it matters to the culture arguments that almost takes away from just how good that movie was and just how enjoyable it is too. So every one of these ones that are making our Final Four that we're talking about are all really excellent superhero films.
Steelbook.
any one of these could be a number one. Let's just be clear about that. So
and a lot of the reason that we're ending up in a Black Panther versus Dark Knight final is just the way the bracket was laid out.
That's a big reason.
Yeah. So I mean, look, if I have to break the tie,
just flip a coin.
And it's
man.
really just personal preference. Yeah,
just
I could flip a coin. I don't even have a coin near me.
Flip the pillow. Flip your emoji thing.
Flip my tile or something. I mean, Dark Knight? I don't know.
Boo.
I don't know. Let us know if that's wrong in the comments down below. I'm sure everybody's going to have a lot of opinions on this one. But this is a really fun thing to debate with you guys. And I'm sure we could have ended up with a whole different scenario had we argued a little bit longer.